Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Flower, back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, Marvin. How are you?
As always, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, and I think, the last time we spoke, it was kind of miserably cold in your part of the world, but I think spring is definitely here. What are you seeing on the water?
Yeah, I think we're, I always hesitate to say we're out of the woods until the end of April. We could still have some snow or freezing temps between now and then, but for the foreseeable future, we're going to be having highs in the 60s and 70s. Today, almost touched 80. So I was out fishing over the weekend, and there were more people out today on a Tuesday than there were Saturday or Sunday combined, because it was just such a nice day. The water temps have come up a bit, as a result in the last couple of days. We've been kind of bouncing around the mid to upper 50s, depending on where you are. And we did get a pretty good shot of rain Friday night, kind of across the region, but it's filtered through pretty good. The lower new jumped up to 5,500, 6,000 cubic feet. It's still very fishable. And it's back down to kind of a seasonal average now. The upper new is still got a little bit of color to it, but back down to a very fishable level.
Got you. And so with your water temperatures kind of bumping up, getting close to 60, are the fish a little more chasey?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the day. But yeah, we've been catching them on swim flies for a couple of weeks now. So as long as you're in the, let's say, kind of low to mid 50s, 52, 53 degrees, you can generally get them to chase pretty well. And I mean, it also has to do with trends too. I think I say this every year, but 53 degrees is great if it was 48 yesterday, but it's terrible if it was 57 yesterday. So, it's a pinball game this time of year, but and it's the chafiness and activity of streamer fishing is a sliding scale too. You can catch them on streamers in 40-degree water, but you're just fishing them a lot longer and milking pauses a lot longer than you are in, say, 55-degree water, where you can fish them at a pretty good clip. So it's just kind of a sliding scale there.
Yeah, got it. And it dovetails well with the question we've got for you from Brent. He wanted to get your thoughts on your favorite streamer patterns for pre-spawn smallmouth.
Yeah, I'm going to start by pretty much saying anything that imitates there's really two big food sources, which might be kind of obvious, but that's crayfish and big bait fish. Those are kind of the two prime foraging events going on right now. Big protein packed meals that may require a little bit of energy to acquire, but doesn't matter so much because the water's still fairly chilly. And so, anything that achieves that larger profile, CK bait fish are always in my box. Different game changers, Murdish minnows. What are some others? I fished some sluggos. Deer sluggos are good flies. Some guys will fish, things like drunken disorderlies or swinging D's. Those are definitely good options. I do tend to shy away from natural materials a bit when I'm smallmouth fishing, and that's really it's not that they don't work; they work fantastically, but my smallmouth flies tend to get pretty beat up. We might cycle through, a couple dozen fish or more in a day. And so just getting eaten a ton. I tend to fish a little bit more durable flies on average. So synthetic materials are generally my preference there. And then further than that, like I was talking about, streamer fishing in the spring kind of being a sliding scale on presentation and pause duration and speed and all that. You need to have some different options that give you some varying degrees of hang time, or being able to fish deeper in the water column. So some flies that are weighted, some flies that have some buoyancy in them, and you can fish them on an intermediate or a sink tip or something, so that you can get it down a couple of feet, fish it on a 4, 5, 6 foot leader, give it a hard strip, and then let it pause for 5, 6, 7 seconds. That presentation doesn't work super well with like a jig fly that's got a big dumbbell eye or something in the head. So pretty much any fly that's got that can be built out to 4 to 7 inches or so, and then just varying degrees of buoyancy and weight is what I kind of consider when I'm putting a fly box together.
Got it. And you were mentioning crayfish patterns earlier. What's your favorite crayfish pattern?
My favorite crayfish pattern, hands down, is going to be a clawdad. They're just, simple, easy. I like crayfish patterns that are not hard to tie, because you tend to lose a lot of them if you're really on the bottom consistently. And so clawdad is, in my mind, the perfect intersection of effective, easy to tie. I'm not too upset if I lose it, and like I said, they work. So that's definitely my favorite. You can tie them in varying weights and sizes and colors, and pretty easily. So that's always my go-to.
Yeah, got it. And so for you, when you're picking between crayfish and bait fish fishing for a day, are you more likely to start with the crayfish when the water's colder, right? And their fish are a little bit more sluggish. Is that kind of how you make the decision, or do you kind of have a different decision rule?
So my decision-making progress, it has more to do with having fun than looking at the water temperature. So I will always start with a bait fish imitation of some sort, just because fishing on the bottom is kind of my last option, because it's generally not very much fun, not compared to swimming a fly. So that said, when the water is cold, and I suspect going into the day that we may have to fish in the lower, couple feet of the water column, I do always have a crayfish rod rigged and ready to go. So, the way the spring pattern usually rolls is, there are spots within the river that are spring spots that consistently hold pre-spawn fish, and we'll work those areas. And like I said, I'll start with the fun option. I'll start with the one that I want them to eat. If they're not eating it, we'll slow it down. If they're still not eating it, then we'll go lower and slower. So that keeps me from having to dredge as much as possible. So that's how I kind of go about that.
And keeps you from tying more clawdads when you get home at night.
Tie more clawdads and back row and more, which sounds selfish, but it, like I said, it really, they will eat a crayfish just about, literally every day of the year. So it's, I kind of get into this with some people in the summertime sometimes too, because we'll catch a fish on a bug and it's got crayfish antenna sticking out of its gullet, and they'll say, "Oh, look, they're eating crayfish today." And it's like, well, they eat crayfish all the time, but do you want to fish a crayfish, or do you want to fish topwater flies? So there's a little bit of a consideration for how you want to catch them, what the best way of, effectively fishing is, and how you're going to catch your bigger fish. And I'd say for most of the spring, barring, big, heavy cold fronts, big, water level drops, stuff like that, bigger bait fish are usually going to put the bigger fish in the boat.
Yeah, got it. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us. You can DM us on social media. If we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag. We're in a drawing for something cool for Matt at the end of the season. And, Matt, I keep getting your newsletters. You have fewer and fewer days for folks to fish with you, unless we're talking about muskie. But do you want to let folks know kind of the holes in your schedule and how to reach out to you and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. I am pretty much down to, I think, maybe 8 or 9 days in July, I think is what I've got left for smallmouth fishing. Some good top water dates in there. And then, this is talking spring and summer. So once we get into late September and October, I've still got some smallmouth dates, but, as far as the summertime goes, July's about it. So if you're looking for something, definitely get in touch sooner rather than later. It should be a good year.
Yeah, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.